Okay, so have you ever gotten a letter
Uh-huh.
that was just like super intense?
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe even like
Fair,
passive
fair.
aggressive?
It's a special kind of letter, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And we're going to unpack one of those today.
Ooh, fun.
It's actually in the Bible.
Okay.
It's called 2nd John.
2nd John.
Yeah, and it's attributed to the Apostle John.
Interesting.
But it's only 13 verses long.
Short but sweet, huh?
Yeah, super short.
Yeah.
But like every sentence is just like...
Punchy. Yeah.
Well,
Economy.
exactly. And it's addressed to this like elect lady and her children.
The elect lady.
Yeah. And like nobody knows who she is.
Really?
It's a mystery. So that just makes it even more interesting.
It really does add like another layer to it.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to figure out like, who is this lady?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into 2nd John today.
All right, let's do it.
And talk about some of the themes that are in this letter. So one of the first things that John talks about is this idea of like walking the walk.
Walking the walk.
Yeah, have you ever heard that phrase?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. It basically means like...
You got to practice what you preach.
Exactly. Your actions have to match your words.
Exactly.
You can't just like talk the talk.
Yeah, you can't just say you believe something and then act completely differently.
Yeah, and John really emphasizes this.
He does, and I think it's interesting because he ties it to this idea of love.
Oh, how so?
Well, he's saying, love isn't just a feeling.
Oh, so it's not just...
Yeah, it's not enough to just say you love someone.
Yeah.
You have to actually show it.
Show it in your actions.
Exactly.
So give me an example of what that might look like.
Okay, so let's say you love your neighbor, but you never actually do anything to help them out.
Right?
You never check in on them.
Yeah.
You never offer support, when they're struggling. Like for John, that's not really love.
It's all talk.
Exactly. Actions speak louder than words.
So it's about putting your love into action.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm curious, like back then in John's community,
Yeah.
what would that have looked like to like put your love into action?
Well, they were a really close-knit community. They shared everything. They supported each other. They
Yeah.
were there for each other in times of need.
So it was really about like practical support.
Yeah. Yeah. And they also would have been sharing their faith with others.
Okay.
That was a big part of it.
So how does that apply to us today?
Ooh. That's the question, isn't it?
Right. Like what does it look like to walk the walk in the 21st century?
Well, I think it still starts with that idea of being authentic, living out your values.
Yeah.
Like if you say you care about something, you actually have to do something about it.
Okay.
It's about making choices that align with your beliefs.
Okay. So it's about integrity, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Integrity. And I think it also means like being willing to have those tough conversations.
Oh, okay.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
Right. So speaking up for what you believe in.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's walking the walk.
Yeah.
But then John takes it a step further.
Uh-oh.
He starts talking about these deceivers.
Receivers.
Yeah. And he's like really concerned about them.
Oh, yeah. He gets fired up about this.
Like, who are these deceivers?
Okay. So basically, they're people who are spreading false teachings.
False teachings.
Yeah. And this was a big deal back then.
Right.
Because for them, their faith was everything.
Yeah. And it was still new.
Brand new.
Yeah. So there were all these different ideas floating around.
Yeah. Everyone had their own interpretation.
And so some of these teachings were considered like heretical.
Heretical meaning.
Like going against the core beliefs.
Right. Going against what they believed to be true about Jesus.
Okay. So like what kind of things were they teaching?
Well, some people were saying that Jesus wasn't really God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Or that he didn't really die and rise again.
Okay. So like big stuff.
Yeah. Huge stuff.
Okay. So John's like really concerned about these teachings.
Yeah. And he's worried about the impact they're going to have on the community. He thinks they're dangerous.
Okay. So what does he say to do about it?
Well, this is where it gets interesting.
What does he say?
He says, don't even welcome them into your home.
What?
Yeah.
Like, don't even say hello.
Don't even say hi.
That's harsh.
Right. And back then, hospitality was like a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was considered sacred.
Okay.
To refuse someone hospitality was like a major insult.
Wow. So he's basically saying like, these people are so dangerous.
Yeah.
That you shouldn't even associate with them.
Don't even give them the time of day.
Okay. I mean, I can see where he's coming from.
Right.
Like he's trying to protect his community.
Yeah.
But it does seem a little extreme.
It does.
And I wonder, like, is it really just about theology?
That's a good question.
Or is there something else going on?
Maybe there's a fear that these teachings are contagious.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like if you let these ideas in,
yeah,
they'll spread and corrupt the whole community.
Oh, okay. So it's like a spiritual quarantine.
Exactly.
Okay. And that makes me think about like our world today. We've got so much information coming at us all the time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right. And it's hard to know what to believe.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, and we have these like echo chambers.
Echo chambers.
Yeah, where we just surround ourselves with people who agree with us.
Right.
And we don't even listen to other perspectives.
Yeah, it's easy to just stay in your own little bubble.
Right. And so I'm wondering, like, is there a balance?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like, is it okay to be discerning about who we let influence us?
I mean, we definitely don't want to be naive.
Right.
And just accept everything we hear.
Yeah.
But we also don't want to be closed-minded.
Right.
And shut out any ideas that challenge our own.
So how do we find that balance?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. And I think John is really wrestling with that in this letter.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like, he's so concerned about truth.
Yeah, it's a major theme for him.
It's like an obsessed.
He keeps coming back to it.
Yeah, and I wonder, why is he so fixated on this?
Well, he's writing at a time when there's a lot of uncertainty and change happening in the early church.
So maybe he feels like truth is something that needs to be protected.
Yeah, guarded and defended.
And I think that's still relevant for us today.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're constantly bombarded with information.
Constantly from all sides.
Yeah, and it's hard to know what's true and what's not.
Exactly.
What's real and what's fake.
So how do we hold on to truth?
That's the question.
It is.
And I don't think there's an easy answer.
Okay.
But I do think it starts with being critical thinkers.
Okay.
Questioning everything.
Yeah.
Looking for evidence.
Being willing to change our minds.
Exactly.
Okay, so to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways from 2 John?
Well, I think John is saying live out your faith authentically.
Okay.
Love in action. Be wary of false teachings.
Okay.
And be discerning about who you let into your life, both physically and intellectually.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like a call to be both loving and discerning.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Absolutely.
Even though it might seem a little extreme at times.
Yeah. I mean, it's a challenging letter.
It is.
But I think it's one that's worth wrestling with.
Okay, so 2 John.
Yeah.
It's a short letter.
Tiny little letter.
But it's packed with, like, intensity.
Oh, yeah.
And it leaves us with a lot to think about.
So much to think about.
Yeah, like, how do we hold on to truth in a world of, like, competing narratives?
Right.
How do we balance openness with discernment? And what does it really mean to love in action?
Big questions.
Yeah, big questions. Something to ponder.
Definitely something to ponder.
For our